So my dear students, around 700 AD, on one hand, Roman Empire has almost fallen down. So it's almost weak. No control on the states. States have become independent. Persian Empire is still not powerful, it's coming up. Chinese, not united. But if you look at the Middle East and Arabia, what we see is the age of commerce. Commerce means trade, buying and selling. यानी business administration as such नहीं थी, लेकिन buying and selling is a very important function. That's why in the history of management thought, 700 AD onward is known as Age of Commerce. And that is the time when the Islamic and the Muslim merchants we see in the history. So there is emergence of Islam. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came around 657 AD. He was born in Mecca. And that is the time what we see is that the Makkah and the Meccan tribe and the Middle East and the Arabian states was heavily involved in the commerce activities. अच्छा रिकॉल कीजिए कि कॉमर्स एक्टिविटीज उस जमाने में ओपन मार्केट के थ्रू होती थी, बाजार सजते थे, मेले लगते थे. रिमेंबर, मेला is an open market. On a given dates, people come. There is buying and selling, there is entertainment, and there are so many other activities. तो ये वो कॉन्सेप्ट था उस वक्त जिसको आज आप ओपन मार्केट्स का या मेले का तस्वुर समझते हैं. So trading was going on long distance across Asia, through the Middle East, on the way to Europe. And that's why it is known as the Age of Commerce. And the open markets of Arabia, खास तौर पर open markets of Syria, which was at the intersection of the route from Asia through Arabia into Europe. जैसे आप सिल्क रोड कहते हैं ना, सिल्क रूट, coming from China to Pakistan. But then there is another silk route going from China through Central Asia. And then through Afghanistan and Persia into the Syria, north to Turkey and into Europe. So Arabian markets were open and they were the center of commerce and trade. Of course, mining was still an important industry, an important sector. But recall, silk and pottery, ये दो important trade के elements और components होते थे. इसके साथ wool को भी आप शामिल कर लीजिए. They were the major exports from China. They were being sold into the Syrian market, and the European consumers were also coming down south to buy these things whenever those were announced. Arabian Peninsula, especially in Syria and Iraq, has domestic industries, cottage industries, and that is the time when you can call as the rise of Islam. Agriculture was still dominant, but if you look that these new items of trade were coming up, and especially between 700 to 1100 AD, we look at the Muslim merchants, how they came up with new trends of commerce. Adaptation of new skill set in commerce. And what we see is that the Muslim merchants and the emergence of Islam gave new concepts of trade, brought new components of trading element, and brought in the element of trust between the supplier, the producer, and the consumer. Islamic State, around 700 AD, it became world center of economic activity. because the Islam spread out of Mecca and Medina into north into Syria, east into Iraq, west into Egypt, and from Iraq onward into Iran, and of course into Sindh. And the Muslim merchants, naturally, they were traveling north and south and east and west. बल्कि इब्न बतूता जैसे शख्स का नाम तो ज्योग्राफी के अंदर और पॉलिटिक्स के अंदर और कल्चर के अंदर बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट नाम है. But let's now talk about the merchants and the commerce. And the Muslim merchants not only dominated in these open markets of Arabia, of course, buying and selling of the agriculture produce, of the silk and pottery, of the Egyptian corn and the Spanish olives, they were all brought in the Arabian markets. But there is one more elements which were dominated by the Muslim merchants. They opened maritime trade. They came up with new channels of marketing. बल्कि मुझे कहने दीजिए उस जमाने के मुताबिक new channels of commerce. Maritime trade through the Indian Ocean. How the boats were taking these produce and products and going to the new markets, and it was being dominated by the Muslim merchants. Thank you.